tries to go on his own. Oh, he will. This is the Harlequins roller coaster. Seldom the easy way, always the entertaining way.
If you think that you can handle this, then you better know you're messing with savages, we're savages.
Change direction here. Cross kicks on, Matt Smith hit hard.
You better know you're messing with
Tyler Green.
savages,
Hands in the air.
we're savages.
Oh, he's done it again. Magnificent Green in his flying machine.
And Harlequins know that is a valuable victory.
Broken bones, broken windows in our broken homes. Can't you see? You should never come too close. Believe me, 'cause I know.
Into the 22, backs himself round the outside.
If you think that you can handle this, then you better know you're messing with
Beautifully worked from Harlequins.
savages, we're savages. If you think that you can handle this, you gotta know who you've been messing with. Savages, we're savages.
And Scott thinks that she spotted her way to the try line. That is a beauty.
This is what Twickenham should be like every time. It's an occasion which is a great advert for the clubs. Nick David is in. That is wins all over. Outside of the boot, saw what was on. Don Brandt has got it. Boy, have they got it.
If you think that you can handle this, then you better know you're messing with savages, we're savages. If you think that you can handle this, you gotta know who you're messing with. Savages, we're savages.
Will Evans chasing him, but here's Bellingham. It's always on with Quins.
Good evening, everyone. Hello. Welcome. Great to have you here. Whether you've made the effort to come down and join us or whether you're watching at home, we've actually had the preliminary geography in. So no matter how far you've travelled, we're grateful. But you guys watching at home, we've had Singapore, we've had Micronesia, and a few more of the non-traditional territories like Richmond and Kew as well. So no matter where you're watching from, really good to have your company this evening. This is the State of Play address. Let's call it an address. So tonight, whether you're here, whether you're there, whether you're anywhere, hopefully you're going to leave with a smile on your face, knowing a little bit more about the club, where it is at, and you're going to have the opportunity to ask some questions as well. So we'll be passing a microphone around a little bit later on. We'll be getting some from the live stream too. We've got some great representatives here from the coaches, from the women's playing group, from the men's player group, and of course from the club as a whole as well. But before that, I think it is time to get down to the nitty-gritty and find out exactly where we are at. So please welcome our Chief Executive, Laurie Dalrymple.
Thank you, mate. Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Stoop. Thank you for giving up your Thursday evening to come and listen about the progress of the club, about the last 12 months, what the future for the club looks like, and obviously I'm sure there's going to be some questions on a more macro level around the sport, which we shall do our very best to answer as fully and transparently as we can on all of those topics. As Dave says, look, you've all given up your evening this evening, and as have some of our players and staff, so thanks very much for committing your time to this evening. There's a strong handful of people in the room. There's also going to be a very healthy number of people watching on our live stream, so thank you for taking the time. Someone told me on the way in that someone's streaming from Dubai. That's the furthest afield I think that someone's on the live stream. I don't think it's a crown prince, just to sort of put some of those rumours to bed straight away. He's called Thomas. So welcome, Thomas. Hope you enjoy the show. And more anecdotally, Adrian Wells's mother, who lives in Yorkshire, is on the live stream. So it's fantastic that she's taking such an interest in Adrian's work. Although she did, I'm embarrassing him now, sorry mate. She did qualify, I'll watch because there's nothing else on TV on a Thursday. So giveth and taketh. Anyway, so let's have a look at what we're going to talk about this evening. So look, this is our third state of play that we've done. And we as a club see it as a really important part of the season because it gives us the opportunity to reflect on some of the things that we've been doing over the course of the season, many of which we're doing really well, by the way. I hope the video demonstrates that across all of our programmes. But it also gives us an opportunity to talk about some of the areas where we need to focus a little bit more on and some of the areas where we think we can sort of focus on in the future. And similarly, as it has been last year, as I say, we'll look at the last 12 months, encapsulating where we've been progressing on and off the pitch. And it's important to sort of, I guess, cover that it feels like we're almost at what would be a hypothetical halfway point in the season, if you like. The men's programme's about to kick in next week. The women have paused for Six Nations, in effect. So this feels like a sort of fairly good sort of juncture where we can reflect on how we're doing. Obviously, we're going to look at the financial landscape, really specifically with the Harlequins, through a Harlequins lens, which is moving positively without sort of stealing the headlines of what's to come, despite the fact we've obviously still got some challenges around us and ahead. And then we're going to get the coaches and the players up and ask them some questions, and you can understand through their lens what it's like being part of the club and playing for Quins. So, moving swiftly on. So let's look at the last 12 months. And I guess on balance, if you're sort of looking at the women's game for first of all, there's some real excitement. Obviously dwelling around the women's game, the Women's 15s League has been relaunched. It's now the PWR. We've now got 9 teams in the league, all of which are reflected by relationships with men's teams that have historically sort of existed within elite professional rugby. So, and this is a revised plan now that's going to see the Women's League over a 10-year strategy get to full professionalisation and get to full financial sustainability. And what we're seeing already is, I think, a now highly more competitive league with games being fought out with far more sort of closer margins of victory, and the quality of players that's now coming into our league extremely strong. This obviously off the back of Worcester Warriors women unfortunately not making it to the start line, but I think the quality of the product that's now on the pitch week to week that represents the PWR is providing the best benchmark in order to take that league forward. Obviously we'll talk specifically about our programme and where we feel it's sort of progressing and tracking at this moment in time as we get through the presentation. And again, England putting the sort of the disappointment of losing in the final last year to winning the inaugural WXV down in New Zealand. So again, our belief and our opinion is that in the women's game, it's in a really rich position. Obviously last year saw the third club go into administration, which has obviously then put further pressure on the league, and then subsequently it's been I think a good year overall in terms of England sort of getting to the semi-final of the World Cup. Only helped to serve to put rugby as a sport, I think, into a positive sort of shot window. And I think it's important to reflect a bit around that as well, because it's very easy, as we said I think last year, to sort of sway into the narrative of rugby's is really negative, and there's a lot of sort of headlines swirling around the sort of the relationship between the main stakeholders and Premiership and some of the finances in it. And of course there is some relevancy in there, of course, because we do have some challenges that lie ahead of us with regards to the finances and the future sustainability of the sport, and we've got some fairly big decisions as we get to the professional game agreement conclusion around how we're going to sort of coexist together and growing the audience for rugby. But the stats still bear out that rugby is a highly watchable sport in terms of the competitive nature of each of the games now in the Premiership, And you may remember that we presented these stats last year, and there's minimal movement, frankly. So these are the updated stats, and they reflect very similarly to what we talked through last year. But what also augments that is that Premiership Rugby is witnessing growing audiences in terms of the TV audience, the consumable audience that watch on TV and watch the highlights, and also the attendances at ground now are increasing. And this is off the back of what was probably a slightly stuttered start as we came out of the World Cup in late October, early November. But since that point, if you were to track year-on-year attendances based on the aggregated attendances from last year, year-on-year we're seeing growth. And crucially, and selfishly, Harlequins are the #1 team for driving viewership and attendance. So as a collective, both from the playing perspective, from the staff and the supporters, I think we can take an enormous amount of pride in holding that spot. And then what I wanted to sort of demonstrate just a little bit was more, again, sort of substantiating just the point that rugby is in a strong positive space. If I sort of stand over here, this might be a bit easier. So the top part of the slide really refers to the global game. So just the sheer size of fans globally, what that growth has looked like since over the last sort of 8 to 10 years, the size of the fan base within Europe, and again, the percentage growth and participation of players across Europe shows real strong sort of positive sort of tracking. And if we were to then extrapolate that down into the domestic or the sort of competitions that are specific to the men's game for Quins in terms of the Gallagher Premiership, comparatively, and these are obviously, we'll get the stats for this year in due course, but how 21-22 compared to 22-23, we're seeing increase in viewers, as I've referred to a second ago, and crucially, the marketable database as to how we're going to sort of continue to take this product to market and try and grow an audience that we can sustainably and continuously sort of bring our products to, then that's showing really strong growth as well. And similarly, on the Champions Cup, frankly, despite some of the obvious challenges that they've had around formatting, etc., it's still seeing some really strong growth in terms of the audience and the engagements that the content of that competition drives through the digital platforms that EPCR sort of utilise and the clubs utilise to drive the content through. So the landscape on a macro level, whilst there's clear challenges, should provide, I hope, a continued positivity around the direction of travel where rugby can go if we can get to some of the sort of issues that we know exist. Back to us specifically as a club, it's been another really good year for us in terms of we've been developing our fan engagement. We've been going back to where probably the levels we were pre-COVID, where the amount of interaction that we've been having from fan to club, player to club, has gone back to pre-existing levels. So our end of season dinner that we hosted in London last year was a huge success. We'll be hosting another one again this May. Our open training sessions that we've conducted at the Stoop saw hundreds of fans come through and engage with the players. The trading cards that we launched in late last year as we kicked off the season have been an overwhelming success, and they've all gone. So we'll be reintroducing those for next year with different elements of tradability around them, and again creating the sort of the desire for scarcity and exchangeability around those. So that's been a massive success, and that was a real sort of toe in the water for us in order to ensure that we're providing a different level of engagement with our younger fans. So credit to our supporter experience team and the marketing team that delivered that so well. Our Quins Rewards programme that allows supporters to go down and spend time in our training environment, watch the team train, engage with the guys in their training space is fully reenacted. And then Stoop Live that we deliver in the North Fan Village, again, has been another huge amount of success for us this year. And closely linked to that is the work that we've done on the road with the Harlequins podcast, which saw us take the podcast, saw those guys, supported by the club, take the podcast to Cardiff, where we did a live session where Luke Northmore was the guest, and we'll be doing another Harlequins podcast live on the day of Big Summer Kickoff from the North Fan Village. So again, it's another real sort of positive in terms of how we're sort of getting back to the sort of the levels of fan engagement that we'd want to have in terms of sort of direct interaction. In terms of the product, as in the Stoop and the continued investment that we've made around the Stoop, where we've finished investing in some of our sort of key hospitality areas. We've broadened our hospitality offering because frankly we're maxing out what we've got here at the Stoop. And again, huge amount of appreciation to the supporters for investing to such a level, and to the corporate team for delivering a product that's reached its maximum. So now we've got partnerships in place with the Crane Tap that also allow us to do some of our hospitality accommodation off-site. And we've also invested in our retail products as well. So these are the self-pour bars, one of which is down there, which are a huge success. And we've got another one situated in the North Fan Village. And if you haven't used it, I would strongly encourage you to use it, because you get a pint in about 15 seconds and you can walk off and go about your business and enjoying the pre-match atmosphere that starts building up. But we've also introduced some other bits and pieces around our retail, like fast beer queues, to generally take some of the sting out of queuing and make some of those areas of a matchday experience that can be a bit less desirable, hopefully a bit more positive. And then onto our sponsorship roster. Again, the team's done an exceptional job here. Steve Morton, who's our Chief Commercial Officer, and the team have done fantastically in terms of developing our breadth of sponsors that we've got within the club. We've always had a less is more approach, and that remains the case, but we've seen some really considered sponsorship and partnership agreements agreed over the last 12 months, which has allowed us to also create some really good content, and in the case of match-worn shirt, allow you, the supporters, get your hands on some of the match-worn kit that the players have worn. And in the likes of Conrad, we've got some real good, strong adjacent partnerships that we think are best suited for the club in terms of the values that we both hold, but in order to take the club forward financially and sustainably, these partnerships are absolutely critical for us. And I'll probably talk in a bit more when we get to the finance bits, but anecdotally, we've seen a significant amount of inflation across our partnership inflow, which is absolutely vital in order for the club to move towards financial sustainability. So this is hugely key. And then two things on this slide. Let's touch on the photo and let's touch on what I'm trying to say as a result of the photo. The purpose of this slide is really to continue to give some massive appreciation to our principal partner, because DHL is, we're in the 9th year of partnership with DHL, and we're about to go into the 10th year of partnership. My strong belief is that there's a desire to continue the marriage, but these things don't come around as a result of huge amounts of work and dedication and commitment from both parties. So their unswerving support to the club is, I believe, unmatched like any other partner in the Premiership. And we should be immensely proud of the work that they do and the investment that they put to the club. Now, it's going some way when we ask the players to score try of the season wearing the shirt of the principal partner in front of the digital LED board of the principal partner. But Tyrone's managed it. And whether we'll ever see it again, I don't know. But yeah, the CEO of UK was almost the first person I phoned after that game. And then let's get to one of the, I guess, one of the sort of points that I'm quite certain you're going to want to talk about. So let's look, we're sort of coming to the end of the second year with Castor. I'm fully aware that this has had some teething problems. I should also contextualise that there's a huge amount around this partnership that's working really well, and I can get onto those points specifically. But we're fully aware of the fact that there's been some issues, and I want to try and give you some reassurance that they understand there's been some issues, and we understand there's been some issues, and we're working really hard to ensure that these issues don't continue on for much longer within the partnership. So much so, they're not here tonight, but they're on the live stream because they want to understand, obviously, the feeling within the club and understand how they can continue to contribute positively to ensuring that this partnership continues to thrive. So just as a sort of backdrop, if you remember why we looked to move from Adidas, well, we wanted to move with Castor because our feeling was, as a young challenger brand that was coming into the marketplace, that we felt that was going to disrupt quite positively and given that we are one of the biggest, if not the biggest club within the league, I say that quite arrogantly, we felt that this is a partnership that could help leverage new audiences for us. It also comes with the partnership the opportunity for us to be far more influential in the style of design, in the kit that we want to wear, influencing our training range, our third kit, as in our big game kit, and then of course the Pride kit, which we've long had a desire to create something that further enhanced our credentials as a club that's highly diverse and inclusive. So all of those and factors were really, really positive for us, and also in terms of our women's range and developing a technical match kit that would be more applicable to our female athletes was also another big part of our rationale and our reasoning. And in so much of those aspects, we're absolutely knocking the lights out. Our commercial numbers are higher than they've ever been. The product sales on our shirts genuinely are the highest they've ever been in the club's history across all 4 shirts of this year. We could do a little bit of a test actually, and you could guess which one you think's been the highest sales. It might not be the one that you think, but the point being they're delivering really well in that regard. But we know there's been challenges. There's been challenges around product quality, and when I say product quality, I mean some consumers have put the garment through the wash and the logo's come off or lettering's come off within Castor. There's most certainly been some delivery challenges, and I say that particularly around the festive period. And the challenges really started around sort of Black Friday and ran through to Christmas. And then there's probably been some sporadic sort of challenges post-Christmas as they go through that sort of period of time when they've moved a huge amount of stock. And then some of the communication process that resulted of some of those challenges, I think in fairness, could have been handled with a bit more positivity. Having said that, I'm aware that to all of the customers that were affected over the Christmas period, everyone was sent a credit voucher that could be then spent across any of the Castor range, be that Harlequins or more mainstream Castor wear. But there was a real desire to ensure that we as a partnership fix this going forward, because being brutally honest, you as our supporters shouldn't have to suffer that level of frustration when you're purchasing from the club, and we fully acknowledge that. So do Castor, so neither of us want the sort of the reputational risk around that. And again, I should sort of stress, as I start to give a bit of context to some of the areas where some of these challenges have occurred, the amount of orders that have been affected by this are actually relatively small, but any orders that are affected in this way are orders that are too many, frankly, as far as I'm concerned. So we've got some work to do just to make sure that we can sort of iron out these wrinkles. But I just wanted, and these are slides that they've pulled together because we asked them to give some context so we can communicate this back down to you guys as to where some of the issues arose specifically out of the Christmas challenge. And so the graph on the right, the blue line or the purple line details the trade that they delivered, not Christmas just gone, the year before, and the sort of the pink line is the trade that they experienced Christmas just gone. So I think it's fair to say, and in terms of from a rugby concept, or from a context, sorry, post-World Cup, they've been experiencing a really relatively low period of trade in the World Cup, and then it absolutely just ramped up, like beyond any of their sort of forecasts. And then when you went into Black Friday, and then immediately from Black Friday into the Christmas period, the level of sales considerably over-exceeded what was expected. And in truth, so again, I don't need to read every single point out on the slide, but more orders were delivered within the 70-hour period than clearly not. And to contextualise, within the 112,000 orders that were delivered over that period of time from Black Friday to Christmas, 500 of which suffered a problem where either the product had gone out of stock or couldn't be delivered or was cancelled. But clearly that's 500 too many as far as we're concerned. So, what's the investments to try and ensure that this improves and goes forward? I don't know whether you've seen in the press, but they've just secured another round of VC funding. And a big proportion of that funding is going to be invested in improving their supply chain, their back office, their process and their systems, which I think is largely where some of the issues began to occur in terms of delivering the products to you in time and ensuring that the products were in stock. They've agreed a new logistics provider, which is going to enhance that distribution. So it's a provider that will actually pick and pack as well as distribute to the customer. And as I say, there's a heavy investment in those back-end IT systems in order to coordinate the end-to-end part of their business. And then the last point, I guess, is really around some of the actual sort of product quality elements of around where you've sort of experienced some of the frustrations around whether the logo comes off or there's some peeling when you put it through the washing machine. Again, clearly that is unacceptable. Oi, dinner's in the oven. That's clearly unacceptable. But what I wanted to try and talk you through is the fact that there's an acknowledgement that this hasn't reached the standards that we would expect of a partnership and of the club, and we're both focused on delivering a better product going forward. And look, there's a lot of words in this slide, but as part of the conversations that we've been having over the last couple of weeks, as we are holding each other to account around how can we ensure that we deliver the best possible service, this is the message that they put together that we're going to be including in our post state of play communication distribution that we're going out tomorrow. So you don't need to read it all now on screen. We'll send this out to everybody as part of the post event wash up. And to qualify, there is some further product ranges being introduced in store within the next 4 weeks, I'm assured, which are Quins branded, but more leisure wear. If you're a golfer, you're going to be particularly happy, I think. And for those that want the cotton replica shirt, I'm assured that is coming. It's probably going to be nearer the start of next season, just to manage expectations. But I guarantee you it's coming. We've signed off the designs. The process has been gone through, so it is coming. And we're as frustrated around the time to the lag as anyone else. So I assure you we're working on it to get it to you all. Right. On the pitch. We've seen some change. We've seen some incomings. We've seen some departures, some of which we've obviously announced. Probably one or two that ultimately will leave at the end of the season. And we've seen some fantastic incomings, one of which is on the screen, is sat over there now. So you can ask him directly yourself in a short while how it is to be a Harlequin. But I think the point here is that we are continuously evolving the club. And not only are we evolving the club with some players coming in to strengthen the squad, I think what's been really illuminating and pleasing for us is some of the players that are now coming through from the academy process and the pathway system. It's probably unfair to single out one person in particular, but if we take Oscar as an example of someone who's come through the academy, been given his chance and utterly shone, and is now a regular contender for selection given his performances and recently turning out for England A, just shows how when we invest and when we back that youth and when we give them the confidence to play and shine in the Quins way, they take it. So it's been another year of transition, and as I say, we've got some fantastic players that are going to leave the squad at the end of the season, but we've got every confidence, both in our retention and our recruitment plan and in the academy plan, that the squad is going to remain in an entirely and highly competitive position going forward. And there's been some milestones. Obviously, Emily Scott was the second women's player to reach 100 caps for the women's team, which is fantastic. And then on the boys' side, certainly on an international stage, I don't think anyone would have been happier to see Danny Kerr reach his 100th cap on Saturday. And for the team performance to end the way it did, for him to put the pass to Marcus to get the drop goal, it was all written in the stars, wasn't it? And we couldn't be prouder for him because he is just an absolute fantastic human being. He's a fantastic player. He's a great person to have in the group. He's enormously charismatic and selfless, and he really is a Harlequin through and through. So we're thrilled to see him get his milestone. And then looking, I guess if we sort of analyse the two sort of squads very briefly, first of all, the men's team. Again, it's another season. It's probably more competitive than last year. That's as a result of the league now being condensed to 10 teams. What we've seen is there's limited margin for error, and that's going to be even more acute, I think, as we sort of re-kickstart next week. If you lose many games, you'll quickly be found out. There's only, I think, 5 points that separate second and seventh. So all it's going to take is a couple of poor weekends, and you'll find yourself sort of quickly falling out of contention. But we've got a very competitive squad. We've got great players in each of the positions. We've got a very, very strong environment and a good culture in the group. We've had one or two sort of weekends so far in the first part of the season that I think if we could rewrite, we'd probably go back and do it slightly differently. But on the whole, we're exceptionally pleased with where we find ourselves. We're second in the league as we restart next weekend. So I certainly think there'll be other teams that would be quite happy to be in that spot. And I think it's going to be close all the way through to the end. And it's exciting. And again, if we're talking about what's going to make the league compelling and can be commercialised and sellable, having a league where you cannot decipher at this stage in the season who's going to finish in the top four and who's going to have home status for the playoffs makes the product all the more engaging. And this is probably the first year that I can remember where you probably wouldn't put Saracens, for example, as a guaranteed home semi-finalist. So for the good of the league, I think that's fantastic. And we've made Champions Cup knockout stages again for the second stage with a home last 16 game. And again, we're incredibly proud of the work that the boys did in the pool stages to secure that. And we look forward to welcoming Glasgow here in a few weeks. And look, from here on in, if you're in the last 16, you've clearly got something about you. So it's going to be a tough ask for us to continue to go further into competition, but we are fully confident that we've got the group and the squad in order to do that. If we can stay fit and healthy, we think we've got the chance to go quite far. And then, if you may remember, last year we looked at what this club's identity is from the profile of a champion team, and this equates back to when we won the league in 2012. So the stats on the left are what we believe to be the 5 key metrics that are, as I say, this is what is pertinent to Harlequins in our mind. There could be other optics that other sort of clubs look at, but this is what's pertinent to us. And the column in the middle is where we were 4 years ago, and this is where we found ourselves at the start of this year. So again, across all of the 5 metrics that we think are really important to show club success and cohesion and alignment and the ability for us to have success, they've all moved on considerably from 2020. Now, this doesn't mean to say we're going to win it. I wish it did. But what it does tell us is we've got the building blocks in place, and we've got the game model, and we've got excellent coaches and excellent playing personnel and performance support staff to get these teams over the line. So going into the future as well, the structure looks really positive. So then if we look, we sort of cross over to the women's team. I think it's fair to say it's probably been a challenging season on a couple of levels. We've had some fantastic results. We've had some difficult games, and I think if we were being self-reflective, we've had games that we know we should have won, and we've probably not got the result over the line that we should have done. So we currently find ourselves at 7th, and I think it's fair to say this squad's going through a slight evolution in terms of if you look at the players that were in the group a couple of seasons ago, and the amount of players that we've transitioned out and some of the quality that we've brought in, to expect a group like that to go through quite sizable changes and then absolutely hit the ground running and deliver the game model and the performances and the results that we want immediately is a pretty tough ask. So we've seen some transition, not only internally, and that's across the playing base, across the coaching base, and as I say, across some of the way in which we want to play. I think the performances that we've been putting in over the last month or so have been far more akin to the identity that we want to play as a team and as a club. So I would assure you that the progress that the team's going to make from here on and certainly into the future, we're really, really positive about. But I also think it's a reflection of where the league now finds itself, because all of the other clubs are now investing significantly. And for a long time, Harlequins was one of the trailblazers in this league. That's not such the case now. So teams like Bristol are heavily investing, Exeter heavily investing, Hartbury, linked to Gloucester, heavily investing. And for the competitive nature of the league, frankly, that's the best thing that could have happened to it. We need to do some reflective thinking around, right, where do we need to improve in our process and in our programme to make sure that we get this group back up to where it should be competing. And it's been a fantastic year in terms of some of our principal Showpiece products. We obviously had some slight challenges around Big Summer Kickoff last calendar year because of Big Game 14 had moved so closely with the extra fixture so close to the Bath game, but we got it out the door. And the important thing around Big Summer Kickoff was to continue to create a platform for us to grow this, to become the big showpiece event that Big Game has become over the years. And then if we move on to Big Game 15, my personal opinion is that this was the best big game the club's ever delivered. And I don't say that, as I say, with a level of arrogance, because this product existed way before well, I think the chairman's probably seen more of them as someone who's connected to the club, but for the staff that are involved in the club now, we weren't part of the original concept team that delivered this, but we're most definitely part of the concept team that now takes this product forward and takes the concept of how we want to create something that's a showpiece event for English rugby, that puts the club on the global stage and puts the club in the biggest shop window in English rugby. And Big Game 15 achieved that without any question whatsoever. And we had an audience of nearly 78,000. The performance from the team, the performance from the music act, the performance in the match before from the women was absolutely fantastic and was everything about the identity of the day that we wanted to deliver. So this continues to give us the platform with where we now want to go with Big Summer Kickoff, which is obviously tracking extremely well. It's currently tracking as the fastest selling Big Summer Kickoff in history. It's the third one, so it's not a huge amount of competition, but it's going well. But as I say, these events and these matches for us are so important, because not only does it create huge amounts of opportunity for us to drive a commercial value into the club, but it gives us the opportunity for us to engage with our fan community in a way that we just can't simply do when we host matches here at the Stoop. So this is, as I say, these two games are critically important for us, and I couldn't be more proud of the effort that the team put in order to deliver the one in December. Elsewhere, we're acutely aware the number of competitive games within the season has shrunk. That's going to be obvious. As a club, we're determined to try and give you the same amount of value into your membership investment that you would have been getting previously. So we had the Barbarians play here as a pre-season friendly the week before the season kicked off. Very different Barbarians side to the one we played first off. This side hadn't been on the piss for a week, and this side was very good. And they were part of a holding team for the Australian and the Japanese national sides. So they were very good. They gave us a stern workout, and there's some excellent players within that group, and we had an attendance of around 9,000 that came and watched. And then we teed up the game with Munster, which we played last month, again knowing full well that some of their star players would not be with them, but they don't come with a half-baked team, regardless of who's in their side. And we knew that this would be a really important game for us in a period of a slight fallow time, where our players were going to need to get some game time and get some contact time against a really good opposition. And again, 9,000 people came to the Stoop. We'd actually sold every single ticket. And 9,000 came to watch this on a Friday night a couple of weeks ago. And these games, just to stress, will continue to be a really important part of the club's evolution, because simply not wishing to replace them and not having these replacement games will be so financially difficult for us that we have to find something that continues to give you an engagement with the team and the squad and gives us the opportunity to lay on a matchday experience for you all. But my assurance back to you is that we will be trying to find opposition that's meaningful, will create value, will create an entertainment aspect for you all to engage with. So whether or not we play the Barbarians again, that's probably less certain, but we'll be looking for really good quality opposition that we want to put for friendlies and showpiece events in order for the first team to get meaningful rugby on the pitch and for you to engage with in future. Our partnership with London Scottish continues. It's been another strong second year. They've obviously had it in terms of league position, they're having a slight challenge, but I wouldn't let that mask over the work that Joe and Jared Mullen are doing with the team. They're quite a young team. There's a good proportion of our guys that go down there on a weekly basis and get really valuable game time at a really good level of rugby. And I think there's probably 3 or 4 results that literally swung the negative way in the last play of the game. So I think if they can get a couple more of those games over the line, the league position would probably reflect the effort that's going into that partnership. But it's really important to stress, we don't have an A-League anymore, so this partnership for us is absolutely vital in bringing on young players, maybe like Jake Murray, or historically maybe Cassius, or I know Gypsy's been down there and had some really good game time, Trenon, players like that we want to then prepare to come fully ready for consistent first team rugby, having a really strong experience down there under the guise of a coach who's, you know, a Harlequin through and through. So the partnership model is working extremely well for us. That will continue into next season. And then on a slightly broader level, we obviously introduced our inclusion partnership with King's Cross Steelers. Inclusion at the club just continues to be a huge priority for us, and is first and foremost. And not only Adrian will talk in a little bit about our pride fixture and the work that we continue to do in that space, but this is another way, another means with how we can demonstrate our allyship, and these guys are a huge support for us as we sort of continue to develop in the pride space. And then our partnership with Honda Heat, which we announced through the season, has seen a number of our coaches going out to Japan and providing CPD to their players. Some of their players have been over here and have been coached for a couple of months. And we strongly believe that over time, that exchange of CPD and knowledge and coach experience will allow them to improve within their league. So we're really sort of pleased with how that partnership's going as well. And then the last two slides for me, and then I'm going to hand over to Adrian, this is really about you. So this is my opportunity to thank you guys for your unswerving commitment and dedication to the club. Adrian's obviously going to touch on our sellout status across all of our home games, but this is the image that was taken in Paris after we'd just beat Racing. I'd probably wager that there's a huge proportion of this room that are behind this shot that they're all waving to. So it's a massive thanks to you all, and it's a huge reflection on your commitment to the club, which I can't understate, doesn't go underappreciated by anyone within the club. And a huge part of that is down to the work that Quinza do and our supporter group, and the huge effort to mobilise the fans and the organisers of Quinza that work tirelessly to coordinate the events and to support the club, whether that's here at the Stoop or whether that's on the road. We can't thank you enough, because simply you are the best, and you mobilise the best, and the team feel it everywhere they go. Right. I'm going to hand over to Adrian to talk through everything off the pitch. In the meantime, while I get off the stage, there's a slight interlude where we reflect on Big Game 15.
Twickenham, and this is Big Game 15. This is what Twickenham should be like every time. That's Care finding himself there. Esther Hayes, on it goes to Derry. Smith on the outside. Beautiful break, draw for man. He's singled dry. Outside of the boot, he saw what was on. Don Brandt has got it! One of the tries on this stage. Mr. Dino is 3 points. Quins get in, win the breakdown, and win the match.
Good evening, everybody. Hi, Mum. Lovely to be here with you all today. In my job, I oversee a really talented team across marketing, communications, ticketing, supporter experience, and community. So anything with the fan at the heart of it, so you guys. I sidestep some of the tough stuff that Laurie's covered with Castor. I should mention any delivery issues are nothing to do with DHL. So I'm going to take you through some of the statistics of where we stand as a club off the pitch. I'll move over this side, as you guys have had Laurie there for a part of this. And I'm really proud of everything I'm going to share you today is either a club record or nearly a club record. And that's a lot of this is your work. So firstly, this is a combination across the last 3 seasons. We've now sold out every single one of the men's Premiership games bar 3. 2 of them were the World Cup, where we were just short, and 1 of them was a rail strike. So we're seeing incredible demand, and this year, even more so than ever, we're 20% faster selling our matches than last year. So we're in a really healthy space because the match days are brilliant here, and we invest in them. We're constantly listening to what to do more with them. But it's not a perfect model. And I really want to use this opportunity to ask you again to, if you're not able to make a match, and of course not everybody can, use our resale tool where you get 100% of the value back of your ticket, or forward your ticket to a friend, because we still see 20% of our members don't come on average to every match, and it's sold out, and we've got a waiting list of people who are desperate to get in. So please do, it really helps us. And the stat here we picked up this week, if you put your ticket up for resale 4 days before a match, you've got 97% chance of selling it and getting your full value back. And it really is relatively easy to do. So please do, and that will make a big difference to all of us. As we've done, this meeting's a really useful place for us to explain everything that's happening across the club. We will next week be launching season ticket membership renewal for the new season. The last 2 years have sold out. We're really quite unique apart from Bath, who are able to do that. We really hope and expect we'll do that again. There's already over 2,000 people on the waiting list. And again, we've got the women's membership for the 2nd year, which will continue. So we're seeing really positive growth. And when you look at the members and you look at the people coming into our stadiums, for Twickenham especially and here, we're getting younger, we're getting more female, we're getting loads of kids in. We're in a really good space, and we really care about growing the club for the future. Big game, personally, other than maybe winning the Prem, I think it was probably my favourite event to be at, especially after the backdrop of last year and all the challenges with the rail strike. And statistically, you told us it was your favourite big game ever as well. So it's a big job for our team to make this better for this year coming. But actually, we've already got some really interesting plans. But before that, we've got Big Summer. Oh, I'm going to do one more thing before about Big Summer. The women's game was phenomenal, and I'm really proud. Again, I think this is our 4th world record in 5 years we've set. I think we're going to beat that again this Christmas, and I really want us to. And again, we've got great plans. The women's games are amazing. If you've not been to the Stoop to come and see them as part of your membership, they actually score higher in match experience than coming to the men's game. So if you give kids, families, introductions to rugby, or just to see a great quality game of rugby, come and watch the women play here. But on to Big Summer Kickoff. So today we announced 40,000. We want to be at 60,000. That's the middle and lower tiers. There's a chance we might get more than that, and with your help we can. So the next few weeks as we return to play are going to be fantastic. And I'm really excited. I hope next week we're going to reveal the big name music act, and I guarantee you've heard of them. I guarantee you know their music. And we've done sort of the Craig Davids and Kaiser Chiefs. We've got somebody that I think appeals to everybody and is a really strong performer. So big news to come. The Game Changer is, this is our 5th edition. So this comes on the 25th of May. We're playing Bristol Bears. We've got a brilliant event day where we really are transforming the image of women's sport as well as our club and women's rugby. It's a pivotal moment for women's rugby as we're going through professionalisation. So please, again, come on down. It's £10 a ticket. It's £5 for kids. It's a brilliant match day. We've got all sorts of people coming along. It's going to be busy and fun, and it's a great experience. And really sort of something I think we feel very proud again as a club about accessibility. We're the only club in this league to do anything around accessibility. So this is the second year that we held an access day, and this year's is going to be around the Leicester Tigers women's game. It's designed for people to come into a sports stadium for maybe the first time if they have a disability, visible or non-visible. And so we partner with the specialist organisations. We have all sorts of activations to make sure everybody feels incredibly welcome at the Stoop and has a great match experience where they might not feel they can do that at packed out Twickenham or Stoop. And on to our Pride work. So this was its 5th year as well, and it was our biggest ever. So it's not just the men's match day, it's now the women's match day. It's the way we brand, it's the way we integrate King's Cross Steelers and Quins Pride help us develop this initiative. But this year we also introduced the kit, and it was great to see Ugo and Nigel Owens getting behind that and helping us launch it. It was a really brilliant partnership with DHL and Castor, both huge advocates of this and drivers of it. And looking around the stadium, the amount of DHL branding now, which is around pride and inclusivity as well, you know this is very genuine. So it's and this is the second most popular kit of the year. So we think that's something that's clearly been popular. And so a few star faces around here actually. You've become the stars of our campaigns this year as well. All 4 of our kits, we've put the supporters at the heart of them. So the home kit was launched by community children from clubs across our affiliate network. The away kit is starring Quinza, given the incredible support on the road we've had the last few years, which is record breaking. Our big game kit was launched by our first ever women's season ticket member, which we launched last year. And the this very tall lad here, actually wrote the music for the launch video. He's on our hits program for the community. So, and then the Pride kit has men's and women's club, Quins Pride, King's Cross Steelers, and DHL within it as well. So it's a really deliberate choice that this is all of our club, and we want you to be at the heart of it. Right, I'll move across in, just a bit of variety. Quins Rewards, we've seen a really high increase this year. So this is a free membership rewards program for all of our season ticket members, and nearly half of our members now use this. If you come into the games, if you forward your ticket, if you use resale, any of the things that are really sort of helpful for the club, you're rewarded with points, and points make prizes and experiences for you, children, people within your family. So we've had some lovely moments here through with Jerry or on the experiences on the pitch. So please use it. It's free and easy, and it's something that's part of your membership. And last few things from me. Firstly, I want to talk about the matchday experience and how we're able to continually sell out this ground if we hopefully win, lose or draw. So these are the survey scores that you give us each match in feedback, and you tell us everything about the toilets or the bars or the staff or the... What you can see is the matchday atmosphere. We're at an all-time club high from what we've recognised and recording. Matchday experience is at an all-time high. And our NPS, which is what if you rate it out of 100, or effectively how much would you recommend to a friend or family, we're just off our peak, so a bit of work to be done. Part of that was weather and results, but 73 is very strong. To give you context, the average in the league is 49, and to give you more context, 73 is the best in the league again. So we really know that you're having a great time, but we're continually thinking, what more can we do? So a couple of statistics now. We really want to become quite digitally led. It enables fans who can't come into the stadium to interact with us. We've in the men's side of things, we're leading. I think what's quite interesting is look at firstly the growth. So we're faster growing than anybody else at number 1, but look how far away third place is as well. So to be able to be close to the squads and tell the stories is really paying dividends, and that's valuable for us, and it helps give us the fan base of the future. We were 5th about 4 years ago. Now, if I take you into a global stage, we were 40th or 50th 4 or 5 years ago. Last year, we were 15th. We're now up to 11th. We've just shot past Munster, and we'll rapidly break into the top 10. And again, it's important for our commercial partners and for us and a global audience and how we grow the club. So we'll continue to do the great work the team are doing through the film and video and closeness to the players. On the women's side, it's a smaller amount, and it's a growing sport and visibility, but we're proud not only to be number 1, but also growing faster than everybody else. So we'll keep focusing there. A couple more digital stats. I won't overdo this, but look, everything we're doing is really working, and not just it's working faster and better than anybody else in the league, which means we're just going to keep doubling down and doing more of it. And on that, I want to have a really quick fun quiz. On here, you have got our top videos from the year. This makes 25 million views. I want everybody to start with your hand in the air, and I'm going to ask you to tell me which video has got the most views. So we've got everything from Marcus bleeding at the World Cup, Tyrone's try, Joe Marler high-fiving as he got yellow carded, the Leicester fans. We've got Sia Khaleesi, we've got Marler again, meeting the pitch guys out in Rome. So, everybody put their hand up for a moment, and I'm going to ask you to only leave your hand up if the last person hand up is going to be the highest video. So, anybody that thinks there's a video on the bottom row, put your hand down. Oh, okay. Anybody that thought it was Sia Khaleesi? Oh, it's gone that. Any of the Joe Marler or the Sounds of Rugby? Put your hands down. Anybody that thought it was Danny Kerr being upset that Marcus got man of the match again? Put your hands down. Anybody that thought it was Joe Marler and the Water Boy? It was Marcus Smith with his pants. So that's clearly the future how we market our club. 12 million views, unbelievable. Just. And I think it's last two things from me. Firstly, our foundation do an amazing job in our community. There's over 7,000 people in our local community being affected by the work they do. There's nearly £3.4 million of social value they've connected and put into our community in the 22-23 season, the last full season measured. And for every pound we create, we get £4.7 back in value as well. It's phenomenal. And you can just see just a snapshot of some of the work they do. So we're pretty, very, very happy with where they are and they're growing. And we also work with a free mental health platform. If you haven't heard of jack.org, it's an incredible space. It's possibly the best in the world. It's quite new. They're partnering with F1 teams, the NHS, NatWest. We're the only rugby club they want to partner with. It's free because we believe in them and they believe in us. And we're using our players as a supporting piece for good. And it's interesting now, we've got a lot of other partners kind of come to us about the mental health space. So we're seeing, again, let's use our platform, let's use it in a smart way and use the club as a force for positive growth. And our community has deliberately left to my last slide because the work they do is the future of the lifeblood of us. So there's over 25,000 children going to feel the impact of the community's work out there at the moment. We're working really closely with affiliate clubs. They're very proud to work with us. We're putting plaques around all of them. There's 7,000 plus. Going to be a big summer kick-off by the time we get there, which is a record for us. With the coaching clinics and now boys and girls and residentials as well as one days, and they're all tending to sell out. It's just a phenomenal story of us taking rugby into the next generation. So I'm going to hand back now to Laurie, who's going to cover off finance, and then we get into the Q&A.
Thanks, Adrian. Again, what a fantastic, stellar job. The marketing, the commercial, the ops, all of our teams do at the Stoop. If that's a snapshot of the positivity and the success that we've had over the 12 years, and I'm sure you can appreciate the amount of work that goes in to drive that level of output. I'm going to go on to the finance bits now. I'm kind of wishing I'd monetised those 12 million people just by £1 to see Marcus in his pants, and we'd be breaking even like several times over. But we haven't monetised that. Oops. But I'm just going to explain to you where we are now in terms of financially from the club's perspective over the last sort of 12 months and then how we're expecting or forecasting to finish this year. And the overall landscape is certainly improving for us. Whilst we are still expecting a loss this year, as you're about to see, that loss is reducing through all of the hard work that the guys in the club do, the players do in terms of creating the content and the match output they do, and you guys as supporters invest in. So it's a pretty symbiotic relationship that's working really well. So from a club perspective, the takeaways are our club revenue, the organic revenue that we drive and we grow is growing certainly faster than the central sort of revenue that we get from the league. So the work that we can control and the output that we control is going extremely well. All of this, I guess, with a backdrop of some of the challenges that we know we have on a more macro level. So by losing 3 clubs, that's obviously had a fairly sort of profound impact. And then the high increasing costs of inflation, food, paying staff, turning on the lights, turning on the heating, all of those things which obviously become increasingly hard for us to meet those costs. So with the backdrop of all of that, as you'll see in a second, we're actually having a good productive year. But that should also be measured with some degree of caution, because next year we've got some different challenges to obviously navigate around, not least the salary cap returns from its current level in the men's game from 5 million back up to 6.4, and we were one of the clubs that took a sports survival loan as we came out of COVID, so we're going to have to start paying that back at some point later this year as it currently stands. So we still have a huge dependency on our owners that continue to subsidise us across both our women's and our men's programme. But as a club, we continue to have a strong focus on managing our cost base and driving and innovating commercial opportunities that we think are going to drive the best value in for the club. And now you may remember, we explained last year, so we've separated out, so we've got our women's programme that runs on a separate P&L now and has a separate sort of level of investment from our ownership, and then we have the main club P&L. So what I'm going to give you now is really the snapshot of what investment goes into the women's programme, but then where that currently now means the main club P&L is sitting as we forecast towards the end of the year. And I thought the easiest way to do this, I'll just bring it all up, the easiest way to do this, to give a real sort of benchmark of progress, is where we sat against 2021-22 and where we're forecasted now to finish against 23-24. So our turnover in 21-22 finished just over 24 million. We're forecasted to have a turnover of almost 29 million when we get to the end of this financial year. And I think with a little bit of a tailwind, we might get there. There's a couple of bits and pieces that we think we're going to get over the line that will enable us to sort of break 29 million for the first time in the club's history. All of that, as I say, despite central revenue or central sort of distribution challenges, that's inflated slower than we would have wanted. And that's all against the backdrop of, as I say, high inflationary costs around utilities, insurance. We've had some significant inflations in terms of our insurance, not least things that happen to big game. We suddenly now want to mitigate against those losses, so that inflates our cost to insure matches like big game, and then the delivery of our food and beverage, and as I say, wages have meant that there's been a significant increase in our cost base. But the reassuring thing is we're increasing our revenue, our top line, now far quicker or higher than what we're increasing our cost base. Obviously the reality is, though, we were starting from a base point of a loss of about 2.7 million in 21-22. So what this means is, certainly on the men's programme, the loss that we're forecasting this year will reduce from what would have been about 2.7 million 2 years ago to just over $500,000 in this financial year, which is a huge testament, as I say, to the team. And as a result of all the sort of quality work that we're delivering, the performance that we're delivering on the pitch, your investment into the club, and this also incorporates our knockout round with Glasgow. Obviously, there's an opportunity potentially to improve this further and get near break even this year if we were to progress further in Europe, or we were to get a home knockout in the Premiership. So, not least from a performance output perspective, from a financial perspective, there's obviously a lot to play for. And then I think the other figure that's really sort of important just to sort of contextualise is the investment that we put now into the women's programme, which has always been a huge priority for Charles and Duncan, our principal investors in the club. So 2 years ago we were investing just under £500,000. We're now investing £1 million more into that programme, both across staffing, across minimum operating standards, across a number of areas to maximise and future-proof that programme in future. So the collective landscape, certainly from the main club P&L, is a positive one. I'm sure you'll agree. So the other bit that's going to then lean into is obviously our ticketing strategy and what we're going to do for next year, because our ticket income obviously provides a huge amount of our revenue stream. So this page charts ticket pricing for next year. Previously we've anonymised this we thought we wouldn't this year, not least because this is all in the public domain anyway, so we may as well aggregate it all on the same page. So this is the only 2 clubs that we're aware of that haven't announced their ticket intentions for next year are Bath and Bristol. I think Bath are going today, is that right? Tuesday. So this positions us within the league. So we went through quite a considerable commercial revision over the last 2 years, and as I've explained on the previous 2 state of plays, we had to do that because we felt that the proportionate price of ticketing and certainly memberships was not quite fully geared around the club benefiting as well as supporters benefiting. So we went through some price rises over the last 2 years. I'm going to qualify now, we're not going to be doing that for next year, so just to reassure you all, that's not going to be happening again. The only level of inflation on the ticket, or the member ticket price for next year will be reflective of the amount of inflationary cost that it now costs us to run this club and to open the doors. So as an adult member, the highest average inflation across the membership base will be 4%. That is it. And on junior pricing, we're going to freeze it entirely. So I hope that represents the fact that we've still got big challenges in terms of delivering the quality product that we've been talking through over the course of the evening. But that's the rest of it is our responsibility to bear the challenge. We're now not passing that on to you. So I hope that that will be well received. And the way in which we've gone about it, we've done a huge amount of work to understand what drives the value in the ticket. And as I said earlier, our intention certainly is to mirror the same amount of games that we had last season. So that's all Premiership games, the pool games in the Prem Cup, the pool games in the European Cup. We will be doing our level best to deliver another 2 showcase games as well. And they all add value, I hope, in terms of the sort of the return that you're investing in the club in your membership fee. But what also, and these are the last 2 slides for me, what also qualifies us, I think, to have a reassurance that we are continuing to deliver value for money on your membership is where we sit within the Premiership Rugby Supporter Survey. So there's 2 important things to qualify about these 2 slides and the data that's on them. 1, this isn't our survey, this is Premiership Rugby's. And 2, this is what you've told them as a collective fan base. So it just continues to qualify all the excellent work that Adrian's been doing around our media and our comms and our digital reach, that we are sitting comfortably first and second across almost all of the metrics that they measure in terms of matchday experience, value for money, quality of comms from the club, how we engage with our community base, how we create that sense of community within our fan base, the relationships we have as a club with you guys, our supporters. And again, that stretches across fan activations. Frustratingly, we're second. We've got something to do about that. But across our retail, warmth and welcome, food and drink, we are listed as first or second across all of them. So that gives us a huge amount of pride. And as I say, that's nothing that we've aggregated. That's the feedback that you've provided through the surveys into Premiership Rugby. So that's kind of it from me in terms of the club perspective of the information that we now want to sort of relay and sort of communicate to you. We're going to throw the floor out a little bit now and give you the opportunity to ask any questions of anything that we didn't cover off in the slides, or I'm sure you're going to have questions far more profound that you want to put to the players and the coaching staff around our performance aspects of the club. I shall invite Dave back to kick things off.
Laurie Dalrymple, everyone. How are you all feeling after that? Generally positive? Yeah, good. A few sort of warm nods. I certainly am. It's always nice to see. Graphs with number 1s next to them. It feels like everyone's making a lot of progress on those fronts. It's the Q&A now, and we're going to do it in 3 parts. First of all, I'm going to invite the coaches and the players up. I'm going to ask them some very sterile questions. They're going to give us some very sterile answers, and then it's going to be over to you guys to warm it up a little bit. Does that sound okay? Good. You guys watching at home as well, the third part of the Q&A is when we're going to be going to your questions. They are very technologically going to be given to me via WhatsApp, so you need to type them into the chat box, whatever you're watching on YouTube, TikTok or some other interplanetary thing that I'm far too old to understand. But either way, I'm very much looking forward to hearing from you, hearing from these. Let's hear it from the coaches first. I think it's always important to hear from the brains of the operation. So please welcome the women's head coach Amy Turner and the director of rugby, Billy Millard. Very formal handshakes. Very formal, very formal. I'm going to sit a long way away from you, so you know I mean business. Right, Amy, let's start with you then, and the Harlequins women. And I'm more interested in the now with a view of what's come in the last few months, because certainly moving in the right direction. And the games against Saracens and Exeter, I'm sure all of those of you who watched are a lot more like the performances we want. So where would you kind of assess where we are, and particularly with sort of bringing new players through, because we have seen some really exciting new faces this season?
Hello everyone. So for me, I think it quite plain and simple and transparently, the start of our season wasn't ideal, and not obviously losing away to Sale put us on the back foot from the off, which again was something that we reflected on really hard and wanted to go into the next process of games, making sure that our performance was improved. I think from a player group, we're working really hard on our culture and building a togetherness. We've got new players in the club, we've got some internationals that are setting standards and taking the game forward, but you've got to create opportunity to bring cohesion with those new combinations. So that is very much taking place. We've adjusted some of our game model of how we want to play the game, which I think resonates to the DNA of what we are as a club, which is we want to entertain, we want to play front foot, high tempo rugby. And we're finding our way back to that. So lots of positives. And again, every time we have a performance and we reflect it as a staff group, but also as a player group, the accountability and the motivation and desire to progress and move forward, for me, it makes me incredibly proud, because the ethic of the group is exactly where we want it to be.
Well, cohesion is a word you mentioned there. And Billy, hello. Nice to have you here. You're in a really interesting situation with the player group now, because some of the high-profile stars have been doing brilliantly well playing for their country in the Six Nations. Everyone else has been back here either training or rehabbing, or been part of those great nights at London Scottish or here against Munster. So you've got like two sets of players who are kind of on different wavelengths at the moment, but you're going to have to bring them back together. So how are you going to do that in time for next weekend and the rest of the season?
Yeah, nice to see. I just realised I wore odd socks. Not a great setup for that. Yeah, I think you've been in our meetings. One of our biggest challenges and things we've got to get right is the internationals will come in next Tuesday, and we've got a couple of sessions to get ready for Saracens together. Now, luckily, obviously, those internationals have been around us a long time. They've been living in a very high-intensity world wherever they've been, and we have left them alone. I went out and saw them on Wednesday. Danny Wilson went out and saw them the week before. You know, there's little conversations, but that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday next week's massive for us to reintegrate them, but they'll jump back in pretty quickly, and by the time we run out there on Saturday, they'll be on page.
Can't wait. Genuinely can't wait. I mean, it's so good to see everyone back here, isn't it, in their quarters. Feels like a long time since we've seen you, but we're glad you're back. Anyway, sorry. Amy, Laurie and Adrian alluded to it, and everyone sees the speed at which the women's game's evolving, and it's super exciting. So forget the end of this season, the next few years, where do you see Harlequins in that really exciting landscape of women's rugby?
Well, we want to build a team that is top four and competing to win the league. I think we've got the potential with young players coming through. I think we've got a potential in the environment that we're building. And for me, I think it's, at the moment, we're in that build stage, but 12, 24 months, we're in a space where we'll be confident as a group. If we keep that consistency of player group together, and recruit a bit of stardust, we'll be in a space where, you know, we're competing top four and putting ourselves in positions to win league. That's the aspiration.
Sounds good, doesn't it? Sounds really good. And with that in mind, Billy, and this later on when the microphone's off, this is something that I love to talk about, and I will bore you about all the incredibly exciting young players that are coming through. But there have been some high-profile departures, and that catches people's attention, people who we've loved having here at Harlequins, whether it's Lewis Liner, Andre Esterhuizen, and of course Jerry. But the club keeps on moving, so what can the supporters expect moving forward into next season and beyond?
Yeah, I think this time, any year, it's a really busy, fluid period with a lot going on in the staffing area and naturally in the playing area. Obviously, there's some big players and big personalities that we've already announced. But you're right. You know, you look at Oscar, Cassius has just been dying for an opportunity the last couple of years, and you know, we've got a head of recruitment who's brilliant. We plan these things. Andre, as you would have seen in the press release, was a slightly out of the blue, but not totally, because we're very close to him and his family. And you know, that's a decision we work with him on. Jerry Flannery, it's not every day you get tapped on the shoulder to go and be the defence coach for the current world champions. Jordan Turner-Hall's been assisting Jerry full time as the defence coach. So you're right. There's always other people to come in, but it's got to be planned. It's got to be well thought out, and it's a really busy period around that space.
Super exciting time. It always is. Speaking of super exciting time, should we meet some players? Yeah. Good. We have got two of, well, the great leaders in women's rugby, Rachel Burford and Jade Conkle. Make them feel welcome, please. And representing the men's players group, two really exciting new players. Great players, great smiles as well, as we're about to find out. Sorry, boys. We've got Will Joseph, Will Porter. And you get to sit by me. Jade, you are furthest away. Hello. Who do you think should go first?
Rachel Burford. You didn't say we had nice smiles.
Yeah, but that goes without saying, doesn't it? Everyone's known you for
it.
ages. They've not got to know these young ones so much yet, have they? All right, we'll start with you then, Burf. You have... Right, boys? Are you upset that you wore the same outfit? Is that... Okay. You've pretty much been at the forefront of everything women's rugby-wise, haven't you? In the evolution, whether it's moved fast or slow, you have kind of been there. So how pleased are you with where it's at? What do you think is still to come? And again, your role in Harlequins, where do you see this club in terms of the great future of this sport?
Well, I think Laurie touched on it earlier about how the club has always been leading from the front, and we've been the trailblazers that have really set the standards and set the bar. And it's been a real honour to be part of the club during that phase. But everybody is catching up with us now, but there's such an opportunity to still continue to grow. And I think Amy touched on the playing group, the depth that's coming through, the way that we're seeing not just club rugby but international rugby and women's sport grow. We're going to be part of that moving forward, and so I think it's in a good space. There's always work to continue to do, and there's going to be things that we get wrong and things that need to be challenged on, but I think the club is an environment where you can challenge and you can question and you can bring thoughts and ideas and try and help transform it to a position where we want to be the leading, we want to be top four, we want to be winning trophies, we want to have the best environment. We're striving for all those things, and I think when you're in a club and an environment that allows for players to have a real part in that as well has been really, really key.
Just as a wider thing there, you mentioned clubs, you know, catching up with us, catching up with Harlequins. Great for the game, but you, as a Harlequin and as a leader in this group, do you like that? Would you rather everyone else just stay over there so we can stay up here?
Well, it's quite flattering when they start copying what we're doing. And ultimately, for us to get greater investments, more people coming to watch, more eyeballs on us as a whole, we need the league to be really competitive. So it is welcomed, but we just continue to do things better anyway.
You heard it. Jade, you are captain of this club now. You are the club captain of Harlequins Women. We've talked about all this positivity. We've talked about where we want to be as a club, and the direction of travel is always forward. So just give us an idea of what it's like to be the leader within that group. Pressure?
Yeah, lots of pressure, but I think I've been put in a good stead for it. You know, I've learnt so much over Rachel Burford over the last 6 years to get me to this point. So to be able to lead such an incredible club is amazing, and albeit I'd like to spend a bit more time on the pitch rather than the sideline being injured. But there's always stuff to do. You know, there's always those off-field meetings, and we've spoken a lot about the environment and the culture and what we can do to actually build the team moving forward. And I think that's obviously nobody wants to be injured, but it's given me an opportunity to really delve into that, really have lots of one-to-ones with the younger players and try and bring everybody up to the same speed. And again, like Amy touched on, that's not going to happen overnight, and it's those small little bits that happen every day that are building this club into something that is going to be great and will continue to be great. And I think there's lots and lots to look forward to, especially with such a special group. And you know, it's a massive honour my whole rugby career to actually lead it.
And not necessarily names, because I think particularly with young players that puts a little bit of pressure on them, because young players evolve at different times. Were you a teenager when you got your first England cap? Doesn't happen for everyone, does it? But anyway, there are some incredibly exciting young players coming through with Harlequins at the moment. So can you just give us an idea of what it's like to work with them and how excited you are to see how they can develop and really push on?
I mean, they make me feel really old, other than that. But like some absolute young guns coming through, born in the 2000s, which again put me off slightly. But you know, you can see their work ethic and desire to want to be better, and I think that is such a special trait in an athlete that you want. And I think we've been very lucky with the young people coming through that we've got, that they come already eager to learn, and you know, they really want to learn off the older players, and you know, they're teaching us a thing or two as well. But such a great amount coming through, both for forwards and backs, and ones that I think are really going to make a name for themselves in the future as well.
Awesome. So if you are a member and you haven't been down to watch this lot yet, then make it happen. It is a fantastic way to spend your Saturdays and Sundays, particularly with some of the young players that are coming through. Right then, speaking of young people coming through, you've got the microphone in your hand, so you're next. First season, you can tell by the reaction when you come on stage, you seem to have become a fan favourite already. You've come in, you've worn number 9, you've performed really well. At this part of your career, you have played alongside and with some of the best nines in England. So just give us an idea of what it's like working with this group, the players you're surrounded, the welcome you've had by the fans, and just what it's like to be kind of in the mix with Quins.
I mean, from the moment I started, I think it's been great, both from how the players, the coaches, that's you, Billy, sitting next to me, and the fans especially. I think it's incredible. Playing at the Stoop is incredible. Obviously, I've been at other clubs before, and coming here is quite daunting. Now having you guys on my side is actually quite exciting. And yeah, I've played with some good scrum halves, and obviously I'm coming in and having Danny Kerr with me. And I came in with the attitude I'm going to, you know, straight away from the off have a bit of a, you know, fight with him. You know, get stuck into him, and then annoyingly I found out he's a really nice guy, which is really annoying for me. But no, he's great. I mean, who better to learn off really than someone as experienced and yeah, all round what an awesome player. So having him to train with and battling him with every day has been unreal. So I couldn't ask for a better start really.
Amazing. And you're going to have to grab that off him. Similarly, really, big changes for you, a little bit more local, moving from one London club to another, but you've also hit the ground running, playing at 13, playing on the wing, scoring tries, making these guys ooh-ah and cheer, and they've loved to see you do it. So again, just give us an idea of what it's like being in that group. Super talented, competitive group of centres, but every time you've had the opportunity, you seem to have smashed it.
So it was a pretty scary moment losing my job with Irish, but coming here it's been great. Like, it's a real special group. I get on really well with all the players, all the staff, and I've already created some special memories, like the Racing one, the Sale one here. They were pretty special memories for me so far in my career, and I'm looking forward to making more. Like, this club it's exciting, and even when I was at Irish, I looked at this club and I think the way you play and your brand, it's exciting, and it's the way rugby should be played.
Who said that? Correct. Okay, finally then, before we bring the bigwigs back on, who would win in a fight, Will Porter or Danny Kerr? Don't answer that. But we'll later. Okay. Right then, we'll be throwing it to the floor very soon, so get your thinking caps on if you've got any questions. But in the meantime, I will vacate this because we've got 2 guests and only 2 stools. So please welcome back Adrian and Laurie. I'm going to stand down here because it's all down to you guys now. But before we hand it to the floor, Laurie, the general consensus is, you talked about it before in your presentation, this year's big game was absolutely outstanding. We can all agree on that, can't we? An incredible event. And big summer kick-off. The last 2 have been so much fun. This one, 40,000 tickets sold already. So what can we really, really look forward to about the event? And can you tell us who the music act is?
I think I'm already mic'd up for sound. Thank you, mate. Look, we're on track to have a really, really well-attended event. As Adrian said, we announced 40,000 today. It's our 3rd one. It's selling quicker than the previous 2, so that's a commercial barometer for us. I think there's a few things that drive that. What Big Game 15 gave us, or at least certainly sort of differentiates it from previous ones, is that the investment that we made to the whole identity of the day was just so spectacular. Not least because there's 2 games of real high sort of quality, all the stuff that we invested in the West Fan Village, the entertainment. The entertainment act is always going to be subjective. I really quite liked him, by the way, but, and he's a thoroughly nice man to talk to. But what he did for us was give us, so the penetration that rugby is currently making into a younger audience, specifically around Gen Z, is really quite concerning. So what we want to do as a club is really try and diversify our audience, obviously across a number of obvious ways, but we've got to be appealing to younger supporters to come and engage with the club. And so anecdotally, what I've heard, like, I've lost count the amount of times that people have said to me, oh, I came to Big Game and I came with my teenage kids and they don't really go to the stu. I'm the main sort of fan of the house, but I brought my kids, they were massively engaged, they want to come back again. And so anecdotally, that's really pleasing to hear. And then of course the game and the win and the identity of how we play and how we play when we go to Twickenham, obviously got to be careful that doesn't entirely become the expectation, but it does. So that's then given us the ability to then continue to develop this product, which if we hadn't had the rail intrusion problems that we'd had last year, I think the second big summer kickoff would have, in fairness, probably not been too dissimilar to how this one's tracking, but it was a bit of a problem for us to have 2 in such sort of close proximity. So what do we expect? The music act's going to be great. Yeah. They've got huge global reach. I think they'll appeal to a lot of our audience. And let's hope that look, we're playing Northampton Saints. They play a similar style of rugby to us. So the product on the pitch, they're top of the league at the minute. We're second. If both teams maintain that level of consistency when we restart, it's going to be a hell of a shootout on the day.
So big global audience.
Correct.
Everyone's going to like them.
I think.
Status quo.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's only two. Yeah. All right, fair enough. Right then, let's hand it to the floor. I think we've got some microphones that are going to come around. If you've got a question, please raise your hand. I am going to give you all the challenge of asking questions that have positive answers, because I think there's a lot of positivity in the room this evening and we can do that. So if you have a question, please raise your hand. We'll get you a microphone and we'll get you some answers. You, sir. Oh, we've got two there. So we'll go this gentleman in the blue quarter zip first.
Hi, good evening. Are we actually paying up to the salary cap next season? You didn't actually mention that, Laurie.
Sorry, what was it?
Are we paying up to the salary cap next season for the men's team?
Yes, that is the intention, yeah.
Good, that's great news. I just wondered, with everybody leaving, so clearly that will make finance available to acquire new players, one would hope.
Yeah.
My other question is just the value for money of the season ticket. I did a bit of research on Premiership football clubs prior to this game, prior to coming tonight rather. And, you know, Premiership team, you see 19 home games, you see their first team 19 times. Premiership season tickets are about 20-30% more than the comparable Quins ticket, but we don't see the men's team, or the full men's team, that often during the season. Maybe 5, maybe 6 games in the league, and 2 games in the European tournament. So we only see the first team 6 or 8 times a season. When you compare that with what you see in a Premiership football club and what you pay, the value for money for watching rugby is not good. We're paying probably twice the price of a Premiership ticket to view the first team. Just wondered, I know you're trying to have other matches and deal with the issue of losing 3 clubs last season, but we are paying a lot of money for the product we receive when we see the first team. I know, what can you do about that? Maybe we need more teams in the league to make those extra games with the first team available.
Okay, I'll come back on that in a couple of ways. First of all, I'm not entirely sure how you're arriving at some of your statistics in terms of where the frontline first team players are available. And certainly this season, because it's the first year where we've had diary alignment that Six Nations plays, we've stopped. So I expect, barring injuries, all of our, what we would consider our frontline selectable players to be in the 23, assuming they're fit and well. We'll be playing across all of the Premiership games. So we have 7 games here, 2 across the road, 2 European Cup games, 3 Premiership Cup games, which one of those we actually played a pretty full strength side. And then for the Munster game, we went as physically strong as we could go. And similarly, for the Barbarian side, we went as strong as we could go. So collectively, there's 16 games there, I think, across the course of the season. Plus all of the investment that we then make across the rest of the product and the rest of the stadium, and ensuring that your match day experience, I think, as the data tells us, is the best in the league. And then you quite rightly say it's about creating that balance around, right, how do we create a financial model that I think is affordable for the supporters to come and experience what they experience, at the same time give the club the same requirement of income that we think is giving us what we need to try and strive towards that financial sustainability. And it's that sort of balancing act, which I feel I maintain, I think we've got that in a strong place. We demonstrated last year a little bit of where the club sits across other sports, other hospitality events, other entertainment events, and I'm not sure if when I articulated it in that format last year, I'm not sure whether my point was necessarily whether I communicated it properly. But we do also have a look at other areas. Look, we're in the hospitality space, we're in the live sports space, we're in the entertainment space, so we equally do look at other products and areas to invest money. And if you were to compare us to things like other sports and other entertainments, I think we compare pretty favourably when I think what you get for your money. And if our supporters were to attend every single game and experience what they experience here at the Stoop, I think if you look at it in the actual sort of, in the specific of, am I getting value for money when I walk through the door at Harlequins for what I pay for my match ticket, then I believe the answer is yes.
That's where the international players are primarily missing.
but they're not. But they're not now. That's. But they weren't allowed to. We had to stand them down.
But that's one game per season this season compared to a lot more games previously, isn't it? Can we get you a microphone, sir, so we can get it on the live stream, please?
I appreciate that, but I think the majority of supporters come here to see competitive rugby, and the league is a competitive league. And I appreciate there's not a lot you can do if you lose three teams out of the league. You know that's where you're struggling, and I appreciate you bring on friendly games, Munster and the likes. But I suppose the real crux of the matter is, what are all the league clubs doing to get more teams back into the league? Because at the moment, you're doing great things in terms of bringing on supporters and generating finance, but the real crux of it is you've not got enough competitive games for people to come and see. And that's the issue. So whatever leverage you can do with the Gallaghers and all the real sponsors and all the rest of it, that's where the efforts need to be, to bring more clubs into the game, whether it's you bring in people from the Championship or you go real drastically, bring people from Wales.
You also have 8 home fixtures in the Women's League as well, just FYI. No, but if you haven't experienced it, please do, because it's good to watch.
Yeah, Rachel makes an entirely valid point that not only is the membership, does it qualify you for access to all the men's games, you get all the women's games as well. So if you then relate it to value for money, then the value perspective it goes even further. I think you equally make a valid point around getting to some of the crux of the problems, which is making the second tier of English rugby far more competitive and to be able to give teams the opportunity to come up and compete at the highest level. The only counter to that I'd say is one of the areas we need to get to is to now make our product more attractive to a potential broadcast partner that's going to come in. At the moment, we've only got one viable option that comes in and pays to broadcast the games, despite the fact, as I said at the start of the presentation, the statistics around viewership and consuming and attendances at Premiership Rugby, they're on the rise. So I actually think the short-term solution equally is to get a marketplace where we've got more competitive tension to invite more broadcasters to come in and screen our games. The danger is, if you put more teams back into the league, to your point a second ago, you're then going to have a situation where you've got a calendar that means we're going to have to play games when our star players, like the England players and overseas players necessarily, aren't in the squad in order to represent the club. So there is a balance to be had, and I feel that we're probably now in a position whereby we can coexist with a test match environment and a Premiership environment and allow the quality of the product to shine through over the next season or two and allow the commercial ability to broadcast it catch up with the fact that we've got a system where we can have Quins exist and we have all our best players, and when England play we don't have to worry about compromising who's on the pitch.
And just a couple more points on that, if I may. You talked about a competitive league. At the moment we've got Northampton Saints on 9 wins and 3 defeats, then 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th in the league with 7 wins and 5 defeats. It's probably never been a more competitive Premiership. And then in terms of the broadcast partners, Harlequins leading on that as well, the only team in Premiership Women's Rugby who are live streaming all of their non-TX games, so you can watch every single home game here at the Stoop, whether you're here, whether you're watching on television, or the live stream. And also the under-18s as well. We've talked about the importance of the academy and bringing these players through, players who are playing for England, Wales and Scotland under-20s in the Six Nations at the moment. They've all come through the under-18s academy, and you can watch all of those games as well. If you can't make it to where they're playing, you can watch it phone, tablet, TV, whatever you need. So yeah, there are a few fewer games, but in terms of watching Harlequins, the club that we all love, I don't think there have ever been more opportunities to do so. Next question. Who's got it? Okay, thank you. Will, if we get him a...
Evening, guys. So some interesting news came through today, actually. It was on the social media for Harlequins, talking about how Premiership Rugby is now going to be shown live on Fox Sports in the USA, and Harlequins have been picked for 4 of the first 5 fixtures. I think that is kind of an indictment of how well we play, really trying to grow the league. My question is mainly to Laurie and Adrian, but obviously players, if you guys want to jump in, then please go ahead. Whilst obviously it's very important to build the obviously domestic footprint, especially within where we are here, based in sort of southwest London. If we want to become like the most followed team, social media wise, we look at Toulouse. I know there are loads of people outside of France who follow Toulouse who like it. I was just wondering if you guys had any sort of plans to try and build that sort of international blueprint, to try and make us a club which is not just primarily supported here in London in the UK, but somewhere where across the world people will be interested in following.
Yes, is this?
That's all I wanted to know. Thank you very much. Cheers, guys.
Excellent question, Will. Well done. Obviously they've announced today that there's going to be broadcast reach in the US, which is principally around fan growth and consumer growth of the English Premiership. You're right in the sense that we should take enormous pride that out of the 5 games they've listed, we're competing in 4 of those. And I think that is a reflection on the style of rugby we play and the identity of the club. I did a presentation actually to DHL quite recently, which shows where our global reach outside of England and the UK is. The US is, not surprisingly, an area where we've got probably one of our bigger fan base areas. Like English rugby, it's not English Premier League football. We need to contextualise that to be clear, but we do have a fan base in the US. We've got, not to be surprised, we've got a growing fan base in South Africa. Not least because we've got a couple of people now evangelising quite nicely about what a fantastic club we are. And then we've got some fan interest in Australia and towards the Far East. I feel like we're getting a really good amount of growth and fan capture here now in the UK in terms of like where we want to get to in terms of our development, as the stats show on the slides that Adrian's presented. We've got some exciting plans around the future as to where we could potentially take the club and the brand to overseas, which is in part going to be harnessed by some of the key partnerships that we've got. DHL are a global brand. They invest globally in rugby. We've got some other partnerships that we're getting close to concluding that are really exciting. And again, when we get them over the line imminently, that will equally put us on another footing to give us some global reach that I don't think any other club in the English league at least would have that opportunity to convert. If you want to add in.
Beautifully said.
And Beyonce's doing Big Summer Kickoff. No? Okay. I tell you what, you boys will have to get your fades done for the US audience. We had a question here in the front. You, sir, we'll get you a microphone now.
My name's Mike. I've got 2 questions, if I'm allowed to. One to Billy. We were shown a chart which is the sort of the metrics for a championship team, and shown how Quins shaped up this year. Given the high-profile losses we know that are coming next year, I wondered if you'd done the metrics for that and how next year's team would shape up, or squad would shape up. And my second question to the 2 players, or male players, sorry, but I could ask the same of you, but in critical terms, in the next 2 or 3 years, do you know specifically what you've got to work on to develop your games?
Maybe Billy could answer all of those.
We're about to find out.
As I said before, at the moment we wouldn't, because there's still a lot to play out over the next 2 months. And then, there's a couple of guys playing 20s at the moment. Sean Kerr, Zach Carr, Waghorn. There's guys there that may push through quite quickly. And then what we would look at is that experience of caps but as I said, there's still a lot of jigsaw puzzles to play out, but it's definitely something we check in on because we believe we do have a bit of a formula there. But more importantly, what do you need to work on?
It's a great question. Thank you for asking. I'd say, I don't speak on behalf of all players, but I'd say that most of us are pretty self-aware of what you need to work on when it comes to the game. We also learn that a lot through the coaches. At the beginning of each year, we do an individual development plan, one-on-one with a specific coach, and that usually leads for the season and then usually the following season at least. So in terms of rugby-specific stuff, it's very individualised for yourself, and you have that purely one-on-one relationship with a coach. But I would say, I'm not speaking for all players here, but I feel like everyone's pretty self-aware of what you have to work on, and coaches can be pretty blunt about what you need to work on, because that's the way it has to be, isn't it? Yeah? What do I need to work on? God, that's exciting, isn't it? Be more like Danny Kerr, maybe? I don't know.
Is there anyone in the playing group? I mean, look, it's just a small audience of friends here. It's definitely not being live streamed to the world. But is there anyone in the playing group who perhaps isn't as self-aware of something that they might need to work on? And that's in the women's playing group too.
Is that to me or to Billy?
To the general consensus of players and coaches we have among us.
I would say in the men's group, no, we're all very self-aware.
And in the women's group?
There's a coach.
No, we've got a very intellectual, good, hard-working group. I'm going to be very diplomatic.
We've got a few more here. We'll come to you shortly, but we have had some questions from the live stream. Some really good ones, actually. No one's put names on them, unfortunately, but thank you very much for sending your questions in wherever you're watching. Firstly, are there any plans to extend the north stand or growing capacity in any area of the ground?
Who's that?
Will, you can answer that if you want.
Come on, Will. What are we doing?
Yes.
No! That's your work on. Look, we're selling everything out every sort of home game, so it's firmly in our radar. How can we continue to grow our commercial ability, improve the top line? I guess there's two parts to it. One is, given some of it's clear, given some of the volatility in the rugby space over the last few years, I think it would take quite the sales pitch to the owners to say, look, can we invest multi-millions of pounds in stadium development at this precise moment in time, whilst the rest of the sport probably normalises or stabilises ever so slightly. But there is scope to develop around the north, and that would be probably the area where we would do it. We need to probably move. There's a bit of work to do, just to relocate the road slightly. That's a small thing to do. There's no one from Nuffield Health in the room, is there? Or on the live stream. But yeah, there's clearly some opportunity to grow that. The fan village is movable, so when we installed it, that was with one thought in mind, that if we got to the point where we wanted to expand the capacity of the ground, having looked at it over several years, we've got the capability to do that, but doing it in a sensible way and doing it in a way where the payback for the investors who write the cheque is measured and not too long into the future is obviously the other sort of balance that we need to provide.
What I will say is, with regards to the North, if you've not experienced it, there is a fantastic pre-match show in the North Fan Village before every home game, so you really must go. I hate these questions because they've got me in trouble before, but somebody's texted, so I'm going to ask it. Is there an injury update on Chandler Cunningham South?
Take that. Chandler's actually my housemate, so I saw him earlier, and he told me earlier in the week that it's not great. It should be about 6 weeks, but he says
I can't believe you put a time on it, mate.
Oh yeah, shouldn't I have not done that?
Come on, man.
Or is it 6 weeks?
But he said he was back squatting today and he's in good spirits, so could be sooner. Hopefully sooner.
Well recovered, Will.
They never put a time on it. Rule number 1.
I didn't say time.
You didn't say a time? No time. All right, we've got a couple more from the live stream. We've already alluded to players moving, retiring, coming through in both the men's and women's squads. How does recruitment look for the next season?
Well, it's definitely number 1 on the priority list to make sure that we are retaining the quality that we've got, but also making sure that the depth of what we need to be a top 4 team is at the forefront of our minds. Bearing in mind we're going into a World Cup year, so having those conversations with players and trying to get them to move. It's a big life choice because normally that goes with work decisions, that goes with other things alongside playing rugby. So for us, this next 2 years is definitely about building a team and making sure we get the right people through the door and retaining the quality we've got. We've got some excellent young players coming through in Ella Cromack, Nicole Wythe, Jessie Spurrier, and that for us is exciting investment to have. And philosophy for our environment is grow our young and make them world class. And also we do recognise the need of recruitment, but you know where we're at the moment, I'm excited about the group coming through.
Awesome. And Billy?
Apologies for being on my phone. Head of recruitment Ed Spokes has texted me, said get off your phone. Wife's out on the town. I've got a babysitter. I said I'll be home at 9:30, so I said I'll be an hour later. Recruitment, busy. It's busy, and as I said, it's that part of the year, and there's a lot of people involved in it, and it's playing out nicely.
Good. And I'm just looking now, and these boys are like, well, it better not be 13s or 9s, otherwise we are going to have a real problem. But that's exciting. Busy is good. Final question then before we go back to the floor. Are there any plans to rename the South Stand the Danny Care South Stand?
Don't start. Don't start. Look... Well, some of that depends on where conversations go over the next fortnight, I guess. But look, he's a club legend, so I am quite certain we will be having the appropriate conversation when that time comes, because he's playing some of the best rugby of his life, let's be honest. So whenever that moment comes...
I think we should all make a deal here. If he hits 400 appearances, then it's a conversation. I'll shut up. Right, okay. Back to the floor. You, sir, you are next. Can we get him a mic? Oh, perfect.
The other day, or the other week, we brought a friend of our grandson here, and he said, "This is the best day of my life." But it wasn't just meeting or watching the game, it was meeting the players and getting signatures. So my question is, do you really enjoy doing that, all the players, the girls and the boys, the men and the women? And Billy, are you going to allow them to do that? We've noticed that they go into the changing room and then come back out again. What's the strategy behind that? And are they still going to be available for those young kids who absolutely love meeting you guys?
Okay, a few things there. We'll go with Billy and then we'll go to the players.
Yeah, so one of the really strong bits of feedback we got from the players last year, the senior players, was they felt like when the game finished there was no wrap-up and everyone would just go everywhere and they'd go home and it'd be 2 or 3 days before they knew, did we play well, did we not play well? It is hard to do it on the ground sometimes. So we have trialled going back into the change room, wrapping things up and then pushing them out again. But we're aware of it. The last few times we haven't done it, we've tried to wrap it up on the pitch, but they love doing it and we love doing them. We're certainly not trying to hold them back. But it is really important when we have a long break to at least get a minute with them in the change room just to debrief and have a little hug and then send them back out. But we're onto it, but you guys love it, right? I mean, some of them are still out there. I'm coming across here for a beer or to pick up my family an hour later, and some of them are still walking the fence, which is great to see.
Yeah, definitely. Like, as a player, it's really special, especially to see young kids and know that you're inspiring them. Like, we obviously all try and make an effort to meet as many people as we can. And yeah, it's special for us as well, and we do enjoy doing it.
And what about from the women's perspective? Because I think one of the things that the sport in general is doing, whether it's in Premiership Women's Rugby or international, as the sport's growing, you really seem to be building bonds with those supporters, and as we find out, they really appreciate it. Is it something that makes an impact on you as well?
Yeah, massively. I think particularly in the women's game and in women's sport, like, we recognise that we've got a role to play in growing our fans and keeping hold of our fans, and we want to be accessible to them. We want to thank them, because without good fans and without loyal fans, then, you know, we're not selling out. We can't go to Laurie and ask for more funding, and so please come and watch games. So yeah, it's a huge honour when somebody's cheering your name, or they're sitting there waiting and they're literally blue because they've been waiting all day just to get your autograph, and it's massively important.
If I just come in on one point on that as well, I think what having, certainly over the last 8 weeks, the Six Nations that sits independently from Premiership matches has allowed us to do is to cross-pollinate the two properties. So now, rather selfishly, we've had a field day since the weekend because the bench came on and made quite a difference, let's be honest. So, so the content that we've created through Marcus and through DC's 100th cap and the boys that came on, and things like Joe, you know, engaging with the groundsman in Rome, all these things that historically may have been a bit harder to do when we're trying to amplify the club's noise in that Premiership window, has been alleviated by the fact that we can promote their material in an England shirt, and similarly, I think the relationship coming back in from the RFU to our players and our products at PWR and at Premiership level is now on a level that's been vastly improved from previous times.
Just you wait till Dylan Lewis scores a hat-trick at the weekend and Wales beat Italy. Just you wait. Jade, you were going to come in then.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, again, just to reiterate, it's so special. Like, I never ever had that growing up, so to be able to give back to kind of the younger generations coming through is so special. And, you know, we will be out there until the very last person leaves, and we will make sure that we are having conversations, we're asking them about themselves. You know, there's so many, like, little kids we're on first name terms with, and you get a little high five as you're coming in and out of the tunnel. And I think things like that just make it so special, and I think we appreciate it just as much as they do. So I think it's massively important, and it's something that we're always up for doing.
And of course, more recently as well, you've had supporters going over to the club shop, getting your names and numbers put on the back of the shirt as well. It's all just very cool, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, like, seeing, like, we've got this girl called Evie who comes to all of our games, and her family make her travel, well, don't make her, I'm sure she makes them, travel many hours just to come, and she turned up and my name was on the back of her shirt, and honestly I thought I was going to cry. And that's, like, obviously she is seeing it as a super cool, like, we're having this interaction, but to me, I'm like, that really, it's so special to me as well. And I think you kind of forget how special it is for players as well to have the opportunity to have, you know, these people that look up to you. And I think we just want to thank the fans and all you guys and kind of all the kids and adults and everyone that puts their faith into us, because it means just as much to us as it probably does to them.
Okay, so Billy is paying his babysitter by the hour, and if we carry on, he's going to struggle to get it under the salary cap. So let's have a final question, special one at the back there. Let's get her a microphone, and keep your hand up. Yes,
we'll do both those.
Oh, we'll do both.
Those,
okay.
and then we'll.
Okay, and then we'll call it. Oh, never let go of the microphone. Don't pass it on. You don't know what's going to happen. Chaos.
Oh, me. Hiya. Mine's sort of like a double threat, and lads, I love you, but I'm going to ignore you for now. Laurie, thank you for the stuff that's been done towards helping neurodivergent individuals having the space. Most of you all know me and wouldn't even realise I have an issue, but sometimes I literally can't be in a room. So having that room to go to at big game really helped. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Jade, sorry for not coming to as many games as I'd love to for the women.
I remember seeing you at the Pride game though, and we were chatting after, so thanks for coming to that.
As maybe not everyone knows, but as the first Scottish professional properly, how have things changed over time? Because I know literally there was no one before you for Scotland Women that was a proper professional women's player, and it's a big deal. I'd never had that when I was a kid, someone to look up to, and I think it's really important. So I just wanted to say ask how that's evolved for you and other players since.
Yeah, great question, massively. So 2016 feels like a lifetime ago, and being the first professional, I was in an academy full of boys, many of which are now Scotland players now. So the fact that I could be the first and not the last was really, really special. And now we're looking at 28 plus full-time contracts for players. And albeit, yeah, it's full-time contracted rugby, there are still some jobs on the side. But the difference in support and resources and full-time coaching, both at club and country, is just incredible. And Rachel Burford will say herself, the difference from when we started playing, and Rachel Burford a bit longer than me, it's come on massive, and the fact that it's continuing to grow as well is just incredible. But I think the special thing is that we've started it and it's going to go so much further. And I think players coming through, having a platform to start and not have to go through all that graft and the paying to play and the 7-hour round trips just to make it to a training session that gets cancelled is that's a win for me. So to be able to see these players starting at a much higher level and having the opportunity to do so and actually having rugby to play, because again, like I said, I didn't have that growing up. I didn't start playing till I was much later in age, just because after playing 1 year with the boys, I like to say I was tackling them too hard. I wasn't allowed back because there was no other teams for girls. So my niece has started playing rugby as well, which is incredible. And again, she still lives in the north of Scotland, so to be able to see her at the age of 11 in a rugby team I don't want to get emotional, but it's special to me that players are playing rugby from a much younger age. I'm sweating.
Before we have a final question, Adrian, I feel guilty because you haven't answered any questions, but I'm sure you've got lots to say. Can you tell us who the act for Big Summer Kickoff is?
We're bringing back the Bee Gees.
Yes, superb. That's what I want to know. Right then, final question for this great panel.
My question is aimed at Amy, Jade and Rachel. With the fact that we've had quite a big exodus of female players over the last 2-3 years, and we've lost 2 of our Wallaroos and we've now lost 1 of the Cleels, how does that put the women's team into a perspective of we've had some big signings leave us, and on a follow-on from that, have we got any big names in the future that we're sort of anticipating or looking forward to signing?
Well, in short, obviously recruitment is busy and we're looking to get people through the door. We recognise the departure of Bryony Cleo and Bella McKenzie through the middle of the season, both unplanned. But definitely we recognise that's a space now as a priority for us in terms of recruitment. Caitlin Leaney was always a planned departure through her Australian contract and commitments to Australia, leading into XV the 15s and the Pac 4 competition, so that was already pre-agreed. So in short, recruitment's busy and we recognise that we need to make sure that we are doing what we can to get names across the line to ensure that we're competitive, top 4. We are also really excited, I'm personally really excited about the group that we've got. We've got some real youngsters and they might not be names that you recognise, but you give them a year, 18 months, and I'll put my name to it. I think they'll be knocking on international doors, and that for me is an exciting prospect to work with. But it takes a process to get there and we've got to build that. But I also recognise when big names goes, confidence goes, and what that looks like optically. And for us to compete next year, recruitment is a big part of that.
Cut your report down, apologies. The only bit I'd add to that is with the league changing in its with the investment and the process and the structure for the league going forward, we've often been operating in a cycle where we've got one-year contracts. With a bit more stability now for the short, medium, long term of the league, we're able to provide or put forward proposals now where players are signing up, thankfully, to 2 and 3 year term contracts, which also allows us to then invest in the player more and for the player to invest time into the club more and become more established and more settled. It gives us the ability to provide security and stability for the young players that are coming through the academy to know that they've got potentially a 3 year sort of at least secure contract status within the club. And not least, we've got a team manager that typically goes through this process every year, and so for him to renew 50 contracts every year, well, we don't see him for 2 months. So that's going to equally make life easier for him, but certainly for Amy and the team, it gives us far more security around having longevity of players in the group and stability about knowing who's going to be with us for the long term.
Yeah, just to touch on that again, you'll see that throughout the season. Ultimately, the one thing we're building is the right environment, and that has to have the right players as well. So changes will be made that might, not seem that might seem a bit out of the blue, but ultimately we're wanting to build this culture and environment that's going to be the best thing moving forward. I think that's what we're continuing to do really well.
Right then, it's not a question, but we've had a statement on the live stream that says, "Laurie, we love your beard, it should stay." Again, yeah, exactly. It's anonymous, but you've got an admirer somewhere.
That's definitely not Mrs. Dalrymple that said that.
Right, Laurie's going to close the show, but before he does, please help me to thank our panel: Adrian, Jade, Rachel Burford, Amy, Billy, Will and Will. Thank you so much for your time. And now to close the show, once again our Chief Exec, Laurie Dalrymple.
Look, this is literally the last sort of 2 minutes. You've given up a huge amount of your evening, and as I say, we're extremely grateful. I just wanted to finish just reminding ourselves about why we're here and what the purpose of this is all for. And we could have put this at the start. But I actually wanted to finish on this because a lot of the optics as to how we measure success of the club against our vision isn't just on silverware. Clearly that's a big part of it, and that's why we're massively doubling down for the remainder of the season to try and finish this successfully. But a huge part of it is around our commercial reach. It's about our digital growth. It's about our fan engagement. It's about the product and the quality of the product that we deliver here at the Stoop and your experience when you come through here. And it's about areas of focus and work-ons that we know we're probably missing the level of delivery at the minute that we've got to make sure that we get right. And I think, generally speaking, across the board, I get asked this a fair bit actually, where do you think you're sitting across in relation to the vision? I think we're in really good shape. I think we're in really good shape based on all the information we've shared with you through this evening. And I hope you genuinely share that sentiment. And our purpose, which is equally important, and I think it's actually quite poignant, some of the questions that came in at the end there, because I almost couldn't have teed it up better myself, in terms of our aim as a club is to inspire the next generation. It's to inspire the next generation of supporters to come through. It's to inspire the next generation of players to pick up the ball and be the next Jade Conkle-Roberts, or the next Rachel Burford, or the next Will Porter, or Will Joseph. That's what we're about. And again, I think given now what we do across the board in terms of our matches here, across both of our programmes, about what we deliver over the road at Twickenham and what our community teams do through our schools and our affiliate clubs, that's what it's about. And it's about doing it the way that's individual to this club. And I think we do it better than anyone else. And I think the statistics bear that out. And then lastly, it was just to remind us all about our values and the behaviours that are really important. A lot of the positivity that shines through and a lot of the answers there from the players and the coaches are ultimately driven by two of those values, which is around enjoyment and about relationships. And that's a bit that I think we as a club, and I hope that then extends through from the club to you as our supporters, because we can't do it without each other. So I hope that those two values come through loud and clear. And we're in a fantastic position now, certainly on the men's programme, to kind of have a real damn good go at trying to bring this trophy back home again. So And I know you're going to be with us physically and in voice, and we'll do our very best to make you all proud. Thanks very much for coming this evening. Thanks for giving up your time, both on the live stream, here in person. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope it's been informative, and I hope you're reassured as we continue to take the club forward. Thank you very much.